Okay, I want to do something kind of interesting. I want to document a journey from day one on building a landscape company from the ground up in a new area where I don't really know anyone. Technically, I know we know one person there, but it's I don't think she's going to be really a benefit for building a landscape company. It just happens to be somebody that we know and we're friends with. I kind of have a little bit of an advantage, a little bit of my history, but I want to keep my history in mind when I do this and document this, and I want to point out some things that I think a person could do even if they don't have the experience. I'm not going into this with a ton of cash. I'm not going into this sitting on $1 million worth of equipment. But let me kind of break down my history a little bit. I started a business. My wife and I started a business, landscaping business, several years ago now. And this was in Idaho. And we grew it to be really large. We were doing over $2 million a year in sales, close to $3 million a year in sales. We had recurring contracts. We had landscape. It was mostly landscape construction based. We had a garden center where we sold plants and trees. We had a full 40 by 60 shop that we kept our heavy equipment in. We did snow plowing. We did, in the wintertime, in between snow plowing, we would build greenhouses. We'd build them like storage sheds, but we'd build greenhouses, and then we'd sell them in the spring. We have the history of building a business. When we ended up selling this business, the valuation was very high. The valuation for this company was incredibly high, higher than I thought it was going to be. And we sold it to one of our managers who had worked his butt off with us and helped build the business. And the reason that we had decided to sell this business, my wife had fallen and broken her hip. She was on a hill and she slipped on ice and broke her hip, and she didn't really want to be in an area that was hilly and mountainous anymore, in icy areas, if that makes sense. There was a few other things. She was kind of burned out in the local area because she had grown up there and wanted to kind of move on and go to somewhere different and try maybe get some different experiences in life and everything. But the deciding factor was when she fell and broke her hip. So we took the last couple years and kind of bounced around a little bit. We went to Arizona, to Wickenburg, to the team roping capital of the world. I spent time team roping there, kind of really working on that side of things. And we were going to try to make a go of it in Wickenburg and Surprise and Sun City area. Not landscaping. We were going to just do real estate. But the more we thought about it, the more, we put about 6 months in, which is, really in business world is not a ton of time. But the more we experienced what was going on in the real estate environment in the area, we started kicking around different ideas. Did we want to try starting a landscape business in the area? Well, the problem there is kind of a nightmare to get your contractor's license. I know I could do it because of my experience, but it definitely makes things difficult. And then throw in the fact that the profitable services are not there. In landscaping, your profit is in irrigation, it's in hydro seeding, it's in growing grass, it's in sod, it's in things that you can do in a large square footage in a hurry. That's where your profitability comes from. So we started thinking about that. Okay, if we start a landscape business, what do? We're gonna do maintenance, we're gonna trim bushes and stuff. Well, the labor pool in the area is predominantly Spanish-speaking only people, and I don't know Spanish. My wife doesn't know Spanish, so that adds one more layer. And then, also in that area, the permits are out of control, and I refuse to do things illegally. If I do something, I'm going to do it by the book, by the law. To get a permit for most projects, even to disturb dirt there, is an absolute nightmare. It takes weeks and weeks to get your permits. It costs a bunch of money. A lot of times you have to spend several $1,000s on a site plan and engineering just to move dirt around. It's very difficult to really, in my opinion, build a landscape construction company. You could build a landscape maintenance company, I think, fairly easy. You wouldn't be doing much lawn care. It'd be mostly trimming shrubs, maybe doing a little irrigation repair, just some basic stuff. But again, the profit margins in that is incredibly low. And then add all the other complexities in there. It didn't make sense. So we made the decision. Well, I shouldn't say that. We haven't made the decision yet. This is the first video. I'm going to explore the Twin Falls, Idaho Falls area. I think from my research, Idaho Falls is flat enough that she won't be too concerned about falling on ice on a regular basis. Yes, they do have some winters. They do have harsh winters. There is 6 months of winter. Can get icy, but she's not too concerned about that. It's mostly just being on hills and mountains in the wintertime. And Idaho Falls is pretty flat. The research I've done, I took the last week or so and really looked into the big players in town. If I do something, I intend on building this to a large company very quickly. I would shoot for this year. It's already June, middle of June. By the time we got moved, it'd probably be started July. This year's halfway shot. Landscape season in the area should shut down somewhere around October, depending on the weather, maybe into September. But my goal for next year would be to break a minimum of $250,000. But I would also try to work the numbers to where we could get closer to that $500,000 mark. But first year, $250,000, I would be happy with that. Assuming a 25% profit margin and being able to pay my wife and I, and still have 20-25% left over for the business to grow would be the goal. So this first video is kind of just an introduction to explain my background. I do have a little bit of money that I would loan the business. I don't think to start a landscape business. So when we first started the business, we didn't have any money at all. We were completely broke. It was something where I would go out and I'd meet with people, and I hired one person. So let me back up. I went out and I met with people, and I sold the work, and I told them, okay, we're 3 or 4 weeks out, and I got like a month and a half of work sold with a start date of a month out. And then I hired an employee. And then right as we got close to starting the first project, I took a 50% deposit. And that 50% deposit covered all their materials and covered the machine rental, because I didn't own any machines at the time at all. I didn't even own a lawnmower. So I had to rent skid steers, excavators, stuff like that. So I just made sure that the numbers worked out. I only took on projects where 50% would cover all the materials and all of the machine work. And I made sure that they were shorter projects that were like a week or two long, where I could also cover payroll. I did have a few $1,000s set aside to where I could cover payroll while money started rolling in. But I mean, I think I had less than $5,000 in the bank account when I started the business. But you know, payroll for one employee, and I was out there working, you know, I don't want to say free because I was making money, but I didn't have to pay myself. You know, I knew that $5,000 would cover a month of payroll, so I wasn't too concerned about that. So like I said, I don't think you really need to have a whole lot of money set aside to start a landscape business. I really think that you can start from scratch. And if you're younger and, you know, physically fit and in good shape, you could take on a few smaller projects and do the work yourself without even hiring help, and let that money build up a little bit, and, you know, then take that money and use it to start hiring people and growing your business. Now, I have one benefit. I mean, I've got a couple of benefits. You know, one, I've got the knowledge and experience of starting a landscape construction company from the ground and growing it into a large business. And I also, I've spent the last close to a year, probably 9-10 months, helping other businesses with video marketing. And because it was something that I really wanted to learn. Like, you know, I've always done pictures and videos, and I've always helped other business owners with stuff, like when they had questions about what they could do to kind of, you know, make their business a little bit better, increase some profitability, things like that. That's always been something that I've done. But I took it to a whole different level. I figured out how to film, I mean, commercial quality videos that could make it onto TV or social media. I really took the time to dive into understanding a lot more about marketing. I've always been pretty good at it, but now I feel like I've really got it dialed in. So, you know, those are some benefits that I have now. And my goal is, as this goes on, is to kind of show a lot of that stuff. I want to show everything from, you know, how do you can meet with clients, to doing estimates, to different ways of doing projects in a manner that can make sure you're profitable, to the marketing side. I mean, I'd like to make this all inclusive to where somebody can just watch through all these videos for hours and hours and hours and have 95% of what they need to get up and running and be successful from the ground. The other benefit I have is I do own a nice, it's only 2 years old, tracked skid steer with high flow for running any attachment that I need. I do have a payment on it. I think it's $1,200 a month, but having that as a resource where I don't have to go spend $250 a day to rent a machine is going to be a huge help to get going. But, you know, as I break down how to do estimates, you'll see that I still factor into my estimates a machine rental, or, you know, I factor it in at $150 an hour, $125 an hour for the machine to work. So it's one way or another, the clients are paying for it, whether I'm taking that money and putting it in a bank account, or I'm taking that money and giving it to a rental company to rent the machine. Either way, it's going somewhere. It's just I have the benefit of taking the money and putting it into our account. Instead of spending $1,000 a week to a rental company, I can spend $1,000, $1,200 a month to the finance company for that. So that is going to be a big benefit. This first, I'm making a trip right now to Idaho Falls, and I'm going to spend 3 days here. My wife has already made some phone calls. She's already talked to people. She's got the subcontractors, like for subcontracting curbing, concrete curbing, because that's just something that I don't really enjoy doing. And we used to have the machines for it, and I really hated it. We were pretty good at it, but it was it was slow, and it was something that I always had to be on the project because it was such a difficult thing to teach. I mean, you had to get thousands and thousands of feet under your belt in order to really get good at it. So it was hard to teach somebody to manage that. So like concrete curbing, you know, I intend to sub out. She's already talked to companies about, you know, bulk materials, dump truck materials. She's talked to the local irrigation supplier. They do irrigation. They do. If I remember right, this company sells lawnmowers. They've got water feature stuff, weed mat, road fabric, staples. Basically, anything that's not like rock or gravel or plants related. She's already talked to one of the garden centers and nurseries there. She's done a bunch of research with talking to people, and they feel that there's a need in the area for someone to come in and do high quality work, not just kind of banging stuff out in a hurry. With that, you know, it does create some challenges. If there's a lot of companies that are doing quick, what I call production work, where the quality is pretty, I don't want to say poor is not necessarily the right word, but there's a big difference between doing production work and doing custom work. Different use of materials, different depths of materials, different levels of irrigation. A lot of times with custom work, you'll have paver patios, walkways, retaining walls, boulder walls. There's more art that goes into it. There's some tricks that I've kind of come up with over the years to make things look a lot more artistic. Water features, a lot of that stuff doesn't go into that production work. So I don't know the market well enough to be able to say right now what is going on in the area. But from the research that we have done and from talking to people, I would say that to get going, we're going to have to take on some production work. We're going to have to take on some lower cost per hour work. But the target would be to eventually have, probably by next year, would be to have one production crew and one custom crew. And then probably also have a maintenance crew for maintaining the properties that we install. That would be part-time, so then they would bounce over to either the custom crew or the production crew, or split it. But you know, one of the big things that I like to do is sell maintenance packages for our installs, so we can make sure that everything is staying nice for a few years after we do the work. So you know, there's a lot of unknowns right now. I'm going to go into Idaho Falls. I'm going to try to shoot a little bit of a B-roll footage where I just kind of shoot a little bit of, not necessarily me talking to people, just because I don't have that relationship established yet. It can be a little awkward rolling in with a camera in their face. But I'll try to shoot a little bit of B-roll of different businesses, different areas, kind of getting a feel for things. And I'll do an update about the different businesses I talked to, and kind of share what my intentions were going in, what I got accomplished. But yeah, I think this is going to be a fun journey. Could get interesting. So let's. I hope you follow along and join me, and stay in touch, and I'll share as much as I possibly can with everyone.